before, and many of you are familiar with Dale Allen Hoffman. He is absolutely magnificent. He is a scholar, and I know he's from Asheville, North Carolina, which is like the
Carolina.
I, on the other hand, am from Manhattan, New York. He didn't know. Okay, but we're really blessed. He's got so many things for sale because he's so creative and just so glorious, and we are really in for a treat. But this is just some of the things he has for sale. He's got a book. Where's your book? I didn't see it.
It's not out till next year.
Oh, he's got a book coming out next year, but he's got so many CDs back there, DVDs, all kinds of radio shows, TV shows, many different things. So you're going to be in for a real treat today, and especially the workshop afterward, which is all about that sacred toning, which I think is going to be a whole different experience than we've ever had before. Only Dale can do toning the way Dale does it. And that's Dale Allen Hoffman.
That was almost sexy the way you said that.
I tried.
Go back to North Carolina. See, there's North Carolina.
So hard.
There's North Carolina, but then there's Carolina. It's like a little bit lower. It's like a really thin, it's a thin filament that kind of lays under North Carolina. She'll take it back. That's great. All right, well, we're going to actually set the base right now by doing a little bit of toning and prayer before we move forward, okay? So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, get comfortable, get balanced in your seat. You don't necessarily have to have your feet planted exactly flat on the floor, but whatever balance feels like to you right now in this moment. You take one good breath just in and then out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take 3 breaths. We're going to breathe in. Just listen to me the first time. Breathe all the way into your lungs. Get one extra little, hold that for just a few moments, and then out through your mouth. And just do that 3 times at your own pace, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to tone a word, and the word that we're going to tone is the word for light. I think we toned it the last time I was here. The word for light in Aramaic, the language that Jesus spoke. Sounds like this. If I speak it colloquially, like every day, it sounds like nuhra. There's a ha in the middle, nuhra. But the way we're going to tone it is without the H in the middle, the H sound, I should say. We're just going to make the sound nura, okay? Now I'm going to tone it once so you understand what I mean by toning, okay? You don't have to hit the pitch I am doing exactly. It's really not about the pitch. We'll talk about that a little later on in this talk and then this afternoon. It's not about perfect pitch. It's not even about the note. It's not really even about the sound so much as it's about you being open as the sound is coming through. More so that you're allowing yourself to be toned rather than toning. So you're not seeking to tone, you're allowing yourself to be open to be toned through, okay? And you'll know when that's happening because you'll feel it. So the sound we're going to make is nura. I'm going to do it once. Just listen. Just listen to me the first time so you get an understanding of what I mean, and then we'll do it 3 times together. But this first time, just listen, okay? Nu. Hear that? It's very open and flowing. I'm not going new, ra. I want it to flow, okay? Very feminine and flowing and open. Let's do that new ra 3 times, okay? New. One more, okay? Okay, you can open your eyes. How do you feel right now?
Great.
You know, it's funny, if I didn't tell you what the word meant, you'd still feel the same thing.
I forgot what it meant.
Good. So did I, so now I don't have to explain it again. It's not about words on a page. It's not about words that you speak. It's about the word. Okay, the first time I was here, I talked about what the word meant, and where it says in the beginning was the word, like in the beginning of the Gospel of John. And I said, if you don't remember that exactly what I said word for word, like whatever, how many months ago, word in Aramaic, the language of Jesus, is the most difficult word to get from Aramaic into any other language. In Greek, the word was logos, which I'm going to speak about in a moment, which doesn't, again, it doesn't mean a word on a page. A word on a page is Lego. Interesting. Lego. Legos means it would be a spoken word or a word on a page. But it doesn't mean in the beginning was a word on a page. In ancient times, if you actually implied that a written word written by the hand of a human being was the word of God, you committed a blasphemy, which means to cut something away from its true source, from its sacred truth. Interesting how some of the most sacred languages on the planet in our history had never been written down. And to this day, some still have not been written down. The Tiwa language, which is Piqueras Pueblo of New Mexico, one of my teachers, a guy named Joseph Rael, beautiful painted arrow. And the Tiwa language has never been written down because they knew that writing it down would allow a loss of recall and would essentially choke away the direct experience of the language itself. So that you're no longer having a direct relationship of sounds and vibrations flowing through you, but rather you have a mental relationship with words on a page. So you're no longer having that direct realization of an absolute truth with a T. You now have a small t, and it's a concept. It's no longer a direct experience. It's amazing because even Joseph's name, beautiful painted arrow, the sound actually has, and I will say this, the sacred arrow, Lakota, many of the Plains tribes had it. It was the sacred arrow, specially painted, perfectly made and crafted in a state of presence, and it was kept in back with all the other arrows, but it was never used. It was there to hold the medicine, okay? Beautiful painted arrow, his name actually sounds like an arrow going through the air. You can hear the arrow cut through the air, hit a target, and you can hear the reverberations echo across the target. It sounds like this. Shlutkoi, shlutkoi, shlutkoi. Interesting. And many of the words in their language have the vibrational quality. Joseph talks in a book of his called Being and Vibration about the way his mother would sweep the floor and the shh, I'm spitting, shh, there's certain sound to sweeping the floor, and how when he was young his grandfather had him being aware of the vibration and the sound of a spoon, and how everything held vibration, and how he would walk through the village in such high consciousness and such an open awareness that he could literally smell the sunrise. And he could hear the sound of the color of the sky. That it was all about vibration. It's the difference between my voice. When I talk about hearing the primal voice is not this. It's not the voice coming out of my mouth. It's where it's coming from. I was floored by the reading from Goldsmith about the original Edenic state. That's the amazing thing. When places contact me ahead of time and they're like, can you tell us what you're talking about so that we can align the music and all the different readings? And I tell them, I would love to advise you to just come from an open space, it'll be perfect. Okay, and then I get contacted like 6 hours later. Well, the musician wants to like line this up with that. It's like, okay. Look, y'all are practitioners or whatever, you know, prayer chaplains. Come from your heart, it'll take care of itself.
Right.
Come from the original, from that original truth, it'll take care of itself. Every single solitary time that they tried to align music and readings along with my talks, they was completely disjointed and out of place. When it's allowed to flow, like today, it's perfect. So what I'm talking about when I say hear, the primal voice or hearing, it's not this voice that's coming out of my mouth. It actually happens after I stop speaking. It's the space in between the notes. It's not the notes themselves. The word is not in the word so much as it's in the echo that lingers after the word is over. That it's not in the tone that we make in toning so much as it's in the sweet reverberation that lingers on after the tone is over. And it continues moving through. The name of my book that I just completed is called Echoes of an Ancient Dream. For one thing, it's about echoes because we will never know who said what in the first century, at least in this physical realm in terms of Jesus. People are all the time like, you know, can you tell me what Jesus really said? I wasn't there. So no, I cannot. And if anybody tells you they can, they're lying. And if anybody tells you that there's a such thing as a direct translation from Aramaic, ancient Aramaic into modern English, they're also not. Either they don't understand or they're just not being truthful because there's no such thing. Just like your point of entry as consciousness is not going to be the same as mine. And it's kind of like 10 people being at the same accident at the same time, and the insurance adjuster shows up and gets their stories, and you wonder if either everybody was DUI or was anybody actually there at the same time when it happened. You kind of wonder those things. So it's the difference between looking at, now I'm just holding just a single light. You see that light? But look up. I've used this here before. See that? But how many lights are there? There's one. It's the difference between looking at one of the points of entry, all of these little lights, all the billions of people on Earth, as somehow being separate, not realizing that what's projecting onto the screen is still coming from the same light, that there's only one. And it seems like an absolute chaos, but if you really pay attention, there's some order in that chaos, isn't there? These lights know where they're coming from and where they're going to.
It's a cool light. How'd you do that?
It was magic. You have to come from the primal voice to understand that. I'm just kidding. Anybody, first of all, you ever have the experience of saying something to someone? I had this experience, had a great gathering yesterday up near Princeton in a home. It was an amazing time. And I got into a little talking a little bit about a radio interview I did this past week, where I would say something, and then the interview would rephrase what I said. And out of the 20 times that he did it, 18 times, he would actually rephrase it almost perfectly opposite of what I was saying. And that was instantaneous. Imagine what it would be like over 2,000 years. Now, have you ever had that experience of saying something to someone, and then they're saying, so what you're saying is, and they have to constantly boil everything down?
Yeah.
It's an interesting experience. They think that somehow putting it into a safe way that your brain can more easily comprehend somehow makes it more truthful. But just because your pathway or your framework of what you speak or the way you live your life seems it's a comfortable structure. It's a friend of mine, he's an amazing singer, guitarist, David Wilcox, just amazing guy. But Dave talks, I was on the phone with him one day and he mentioned the phrase structures of comfort. And I went, whoa. And I was like, ooh, I'm going to steal that. He's like, no, I was going to call a song that. And I'm like, no, I'm stealing it. It's mine. I'm just going to say you got it from me. But then I just let that out of the bag. It's the structures of comfort, and somehow we go along in this structure of comfort. We stay on the same path, in the same fence, in the same framework, and we do it so much that we start to think that that's what's real, and that's truth, and that's what's right. Until somebody else comes in and starts to shatter, and they're off on the side, and they're not walking on the path, and they're going crisscross. And you're starting to wonder, hey, wait a second, you're doing that wrong. You're supposed to be right here. Everybody else went this way, why aren't you? Which is amazing because actually on that interview, the interviewer who comes from Judaism, and he said that, like as an example, he literally said that the meanings, the Aramaic meanings of the words that Jesus said, if he was quoting from the Old Testament, don't matter. All that matters is what the Hebrew meant, because he was quoting Hebrew. And as an example, when I said that the word neighbor in Aramaic means anyone that you think of, including yourself, in the first century. And he's like, well, in Judaism, the neighbor was just the person next to you, and it usually basically was just a Jew, especially then, he said. So if they weren't Jewish, then they weren't your neighbor. And I said, well, gee, I wonder why he put the parable of the Good Samaritan after it. When he was a Jewish man who was on the side of the road, literally falling apart, bloodied, starving, and was passed up by all these Jewish people. All these Jews walked by, and it was a Samaritan. They call it the Good Samaritan. Do you know what a Samaritan was? The Samaritans were called by the Jews in the first century, they were called swine and pigs. They were the filth of the earth. That's what they were called. And the swine, the Samaritan, was the one who stopped, nursed his wounds, got him into town, got him some food, and got him a place to stay for the night. That was actually what the Good Samaritan was about. That it's not just the person next to you. That it's much greater and much more cosmic than that. And the word is exactly that. I want to read you something here. This is from Ernest Holmes, actually. Just want you to close your eyes and let this in. He says, life is infinite energy, coupled with limitless creative imagination. It is the invisible essence and substance of every visible form. The invisible essence and substance of every visible form. It is the light that is the source of what projects onto the wall. Its nature is goodness, truth, wisdom, and beauty, as well as energy and imagination. Our highest satisfaction comes from a sense of conscious union with this invisible life. All human endeavor is an attempt to get back to first or primal principles. To find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. Not failure, but low aim is a crime. It's the difference between thinking you're just a dot on the wall versus realizing that you are the light that is the essence, is the substance of every single dot on the wall. I was listening to a song on the way over here from a musician that I love dearly, a guy by the name of Jimmy Dale Gilmore, and I listened to it about 6 times this morning, and I think it was 3 times last night. So I'm going to be forced to not listen to it when I get back in the car with the family. But he kept saying in it, he was talking about these different things, and it was a conversation of him with his beloved, and he was kind of puffing up and getting a little arrogant, and she kept saying that you are the wave, you're not the water. And I was like, that's so close. Yes, you are the wave, but you're the water too. It's the difference. One of my dearest friends, one of the greatest support systems of my life, is a guy named Dr. John Waterhouse. My minister back in Asheville, North Carolina. He's actually the president of Centers for Spiritual Living Worldwide. And John always says, it's not necessarily I am God, so much as whatever God is, I am. I am that, comma, I am. And the primal voice is the difference between just coming from my sort of human wants, needs, desires, which is neat to do and it's fun. Yes, you have choice at all levels of being. But there's a certain point that I feel you sort of, I want to say, grow up. And you stop just going with all of the human desires, needs, and wants, and you allow those desires, needs, and wants to come from a place that's much deeper, much more original, much more primal. Okay? How do you do that? You pay attention to the open space between the thoughts. being aware that it's not about a constant torrent of words coming out of your mouth, but it's about, because it's in that silent space, that's where the primal voice is. It's not also about going to the top of a mountain and escaping society and meditating for 20 years on your navel. Although maybe that's a good thing to do. You want to see if someone's enlightened? Bring them back to their family of origins. Plant them in the middle when your 3-year-old, your 12-year-old, and your 15-year-old are having a thing. Put them in the middle of that and we'll see how enlightened they are. Most of those people will want to escape back to the mountain. That's not enlightenment in any way whatsoever. Enlightenment is not a destination. As soon as it becomes a destination, it becomes a thing, it becomes a goal, and it takes you out of now, which is enlightenment. It's now. In the primal now. One other little phrase here. This is from the Keys of Enoch, the Book of Knowledge from J.J. Hurtak. This book is like my right arm. Wait a second. This book is like my right arm. Published in the 70s. It's as divine as any sacred text I've ever read in my entire life. That says a lot. Shh. Course in Miracles was channeled by an atheist in the 70s. Shh. Interesting. Did you ever notice that they could have miracles back then, but we can't today? They could channel back then, we can't today. There could be angels back then, but not today. They could live to be 900 back then, but not today. It's a bad thing now. It's all demonic now. I actually had a woman once that told me that when I pulled out a crystal bowl to play it, she told me that crystal bowls were satanic. I mentioned that yesterday, and I said, well, you know what's interesting? Think about how you feel looking at this crystal bowl and saying it's satanic versus how we feel, every other one of us in the room who feel the light and the beauty and the joy in this sound here. That's your choice. She said, yes, it is my choice. And she sat back and she went like this, folded her arms. Interesting. She heard the same sound we did, but I could actually watch her closing up. And everyone else chose to open. Same experience. Level of choice. So this is what it says here just back in the glossary. The Word. I'm going to say this a couple of times. Take a breath. Yesterday I spoke in my event about the gate. I am the gate. That word gate in Aramaic is the word tareya, which means a portal or a doorway. It's an entry point between two different dimensions of reality, this room and that room, a pathway from one place to another. And the I am is the portal between the one light and the many lights. You are the gate. You are the portal. You speak it into existence with the words, I am. I'm so angry at you. That's a creative thought. Now here's what he says. It says the Word is divine thought transmission between the prototype and the copy of primal life in the creation of worlds. Divine thought transmission between the prototype or the absolute truth and the copy of primal life in the creation of worlds. What I would say another word for copy would be reflection. The word light that we used in the beginning, nukra, is the word Jesus used to talk about human light. And it's also the word for moonlight. And what's unique about moonlight versus sunlight? Moonlight is a reflection of the sunlight. We are a reflection of the God light. Whatever God is, I am. My light is the light. So what we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to go into sound, and we're going to go into some very primal sound, and we'll get our giggles out in the beginning, because some of the sounds might be a little odd. I'll just get them out of it. You'll giggle even more when we get to it. But we're going to be toning some words, but a lot of this isn't so much about words. It's much more about the space between the words. It's more about basic sounds. And being able to, we're going to be doing things like a groan and moaning and bringing things up from the ground of being, or what Joseph Rael would call the floor of consciousness. Interesting. Bringing it up from that rooted earth base and bringing it through the energy system. And it's a pretty incredible way to help forgive, to process. To forgive in Aramaic means to remove the root of my suffering. So that you're able to be right here in front of someone in an open relationship rather than the thing, the veil that's in the middle of it. And then you're looking at them, but you're not seeing them, you're seeing the veil. And then there's not much light there. And then the more veils that are there, the less light gets through until you don't even see them anymore. You just see your projections. And you'll find out 20 years later they weren't the ones that said it anyway, even though you locked them out of your life for 2 decades. Sometimes you find out after their body is gone. So it's at 12:15 to 2:15, right?
Sure.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
That was like an interesting short. Holy cow, whatever you want to
You
do.
wanted to go a little longer.
Okay, I just wanted to lay a good base so that we'd be able to start on time, and it's going to be a profound experience. We'll be sitting in a circle, and if there's anything I can advise, it's just one thing, and that's be open. Just be open. And if you have, the thought that I don't want to be open, I don't want to be vulnerable to something out there, again, there's only one light. There's nothing out there because there is no out there. That's all here. All of these points of entry in the room. There's only one. Thank you.
Oh.
I'll see you in a few minutes.